And I always start the vlogs, like, not the vlogs, the podcast. I am back. I'm doing another podcast style video. I love these podcast style videos. I really do. I think I find them so interesting. If anyone has any recommendations of things that maybe I should be doing that might be interesting, like, I'm super open. Anyways, so today's topic, we're tackling moving abroad and how to take over a new city. I think I'm a pro at this topic. I think I have enough experience to give you guys my advice, and also I'm in the perfect 3-month period of a new city and that moment where things either fall apart or they really build up, you know? I'll get into that for a second. But anyways, to give you context if you're new here, which a lot of people are, hello, I'm Lucia. I was born and raised in the Canary Islands, but then when I was 10 years old, I moved to Miami, Florida, and then when I was freshly 18, I moved to London for 3 years for university, and I just recently, then in the summer, to give you context, I lived in Madrid for 3 months at that point. I did another 3 months another summer, but anyways, graduated from London, moved to Madrid for 3 months for an internship, moved out, traveled everywhere for like 6 months. Like, I went to Hungary, Paris, France. I went to Hungary, France, the entire coast of Costa Brava, so like on top of Barcelona. Where else did I go? I went to the US, then I went to Thailand, Indonesia, Korea, and Singapore. And I'm sure I'm missing some places. Oh, I also went to Italy. Like, it was a wild ride, but it's my favorite. I love traveling and I love doing all those random things. So I had a blast. And as of September, I've been living in Barcelona. So right now I'm filming this on the last week of November. So, or like almost the last week of November. So I've been here for 3 months. And there's a lot that I can say about moving around, about finding your people in a new city, and also just making your place in a new city. I think, personally, from personal experience, it's really scary to get up and move. Either if it's a lot of people in their 20s, they move to different cities or countries because of uni, which is, the reason why I even left the US in the first place. So it was uni. You can go for work, which is why I moved to Barcelona. I literally moved to Barcelona for work. And I moved to Madrid for work. I actually didn't want to go to Madrid. I didn't want to go to Madrid. I wanted to stay in London for the summer. But I got an internship offer and I really needed it. So I took it and I packed everything and I left Madrid. Ways that you can take the leap to move out to another city where you know no one. When it came to London, I actually knew no one, and it was the first time that I ever lived alone, and I lived in a studio dorm by myself with my own kitchen, and everyone had their own kitchen, so no one really had like meals together. So just to give you context of how truly alone I was in a new city, in a new country that I've been to but like for 2 days before. And then in Barcelona, I've been living with 2 roommates, and I will say I do have my boyfriend here, which has been super helpful, super smooth. And I do have one friend from Barcelona, but we'll get into that in a second. So, moving abroad. First things first, obviously to move abroad, you need visas. You need documentation, and you need to find housing. When it comes to London, it's absolute hell. I actually think London is worse than Barcelona. Absolute hell. This is for context for anyone that's moving to London. London has this thing that they're trying to change in the UK. But I don't know if it passed. But basically, if you are an international person in general, doesn't matter if you work, if you study, just like in general, if you're an international person coming to the UK and trying to rent an apartment in the UK or a house in the UK, you have to pay 6 months in advance. Sometimes a year, but most of the time it's 6 months in advance, your rent. Why is this, Lucia? Why would they make you do such a thing? You need to be a millionaire to be able to do that. Well, it's just because they don't trust that you'll be able to pay all those months in advance, because they think that you're just going to flee the country at any moment. So that gives them stability of, they've already paid for 6 months. So if they flee, I already have like that rent covered. So for the first 2 years of university, I was paying 6 months at a time my rent. Horrible. I'm going to be super transparent here. And my rent was around 1.2 a month. So it really, that was a lot of money that had to be paid like 6 months in advance. So before I even looked for an apartment, we knew that was going to happen. So that was something that we saved up for a really long time before even making a payment. So it was, in the savings and something that had to be thought out of a year prior to getting the apartment, because we knew that we had to make this large payment. When it comes to visas, I really do recommend applying a year in advance minimum. I will start this planning process a full year before moving to that city. It's just very competitive, especially London. I mean, depends where you're applying to, but especially London, very, very competitive. They're really strict right now with the immigrants coming into the country, especially for students. Ever since Brexit, also the paperwork is very expensive, and it's a lot of it. Takes a lot of time. I have a lot of friends who had to start a semester later because they didn't get their visa in time, so make sure you get that correctly done way before time. Obviously it depends on which passport you're applying from, but I applied as Spaniard because I didn't have an American passport at the time, and I remember it took me 4 months, if I'm correct, so it really does take a long time. But I have friends who took them 8 months, and I had a friend who took him 1 month, so I say plan ahead of time just in case. So obviously when you move to a new city, there's all these expectations, all of these amazing things that you want to do, all of these plans that you want to accomplish, and that's amazing. And actually one of the best things I recommend, and this is one of the things that I did in London and in Barcelona, is do a little checklist of things you want to do your first weeks. I realized that I've come so many times to Barcelona to visit friends, to visit my boyfriend, but I've never gone inside Sagrada Familia. So at work, I made friends with this guy, and I was like, we're gonna go to Sagrada Familia because both you and I, we haven't gone. And we got a ticket, and it was a wonderful experience. I felt like I accomplished everything and more than I needed to do in the city. Also, one of my main things was I hadn't hiked up to Tibidabo, so I did that also on my bucket list. One of the things that I've never done in Barcelona was having pizza at dinner, like at the beach. Also put it on my bucket list. So there's certain things, like going up to Costa Brava, going down to Sitges. The really good and amazing thing about Barcelona is that you are always a train ride away from amazing beaches and amazing little towns. So if you're bored in the city, you just take a train for an hour for really cheap, like 5 euros, and you are in a whole new cute little sea town. And even if it's cold, you can sit in a cafe and watch the ocean. So it honestly has been very therapeutic for me, because I grew up by the ocean, so it makes sense. But yeah, so anyways, that's one of my recommendations. Always have a checklist of things to look forward to, because it can get very hectic, the moving, having to make your new house to a home, and also at the beginning when I moved to Madrid, I knew no one, and I had no one to see, no one to hang out with. So the first couple of days can be a little bit lonely, especially first couple weeks and even months. When I moved to London and when I moved to Madrid, I knew no one. I would spend so many days by myself. I would be walking parks by myself. I would be doing bookshops by myself. So one thing that I really do recommend is try to make the city as homey and as yours as it can be. And there's multiple ways that you can do this. One of the things that helped me in London was to do regular things that I would do at home. It sounds so silly, but I never went to a movie theater in London until 2 months in. And that was one of the things that I used to do with all my friends in Miami. So I was like, hold on, let me just do the silliest little thing and let me just go to the movie theater. So going to the movie theater, trying to see my favorite spots at the park to read. So I would go to the park and then try out different places, and then I found my spot, so it feels like home. It's like, oh, this is my spot to read. Go to different coffee shops and try to find your favorite. In Madrid, I ended up finding this really cute, which I'll link here, but matcha, which I showed my friend Mia, and she's obsessed. All the time she goes to Madrid, she goes to that coffee shop, but they have really good matcha. It's called Sweet Studio. It's in Malasaña. It's such good matcha, and I will never stop talking about it. They have the greenest and most amazing matcha and matcha cake, and it's owned by this, I don't know, I think she's Japanese, but this Japanese woman, and she brings the matcha from Japan, and it's pretty cheap. I remember the matcha being 3 euros, and it's homemade. You see her baking the cake in the back. Such an amazing spot also to work. During the weekends, you can't work there, or at least there's certain hours that you can. Anyways, so yes, finding your spots. I still haven't found my spots in Barcelona. There's a couple acai spots that I found that are definitely I feel like I found it, this is my place. And I do have so many pins of coffee shops I want to try in Gracia, so I need to find my spots yet. I am yet to find my spot. Also, just like I was saying, I found my working cafe in Madrid. That felt like whenever I was bored on a day and I had nothing to do, I would take my book and I would go to that cafe, and it felt like a me day. Like I read in Sweet Studio, then I would go to the park, then maybe I would go stroll around, maybe buy myself like a little candle or something. Like it just felt like a me day. It felt like it was my city. Like I knew the city. It felt at home. Like yes, I was lonely because I didn't really have a lot of people yet that I knew there. But at the same time, I had my routine. I had my things. I had the things that felt like home. It was good. It felt alone, but not lonely, which is a key difference. You can spend so much time alone, but it's up to you to feel like it's lonely, because it's just your mind talking to you, telling you that you're lonely, even though you're just alone, but that doesn't mean that you're actually lonely. Anyways, I know that made sense. Make the city feel at home by doing things that you do at home, by finding your cafes, by finding your personal places, by strolling around the city endlessly with headphones or without headphones, whatever you prefer. Try to get the sense of the place as much as possible. Maybe go on Google Pins and pins everything that you pass by that you love. Now, here comes the complicated part. The crash out will come. It will either come in 3 weeks. It will either come in a couple months. It will either come in a couple days. I actually remember the first few months. Let me compare the two because they're very different experiences, and I'm sure like everyone will have a different experience, but I think the fact that I've done it multiple times just shows that, I'm aware that every single time you move to another city in your 20s, it can be a very vastly different experience. So for example, London, I really, really suffered, but Madrid, not really suffered, but it was like almost there, but I already knew the tools that I needed to do, so it didn't get there. Barcelona has been really smooth. I feel like a little bit of a twist right now, but I feel like it will not crash out. It's going in a good direction. I don't know what that dance was, but you got the whole point. The crash out will happen because if you don't prioritize things that align with who you are and your values and the people that you would actually surround yourself with back home, I'm so sorry, but those friends will end up crashing out in 3 months when you start getting a reality check. And this has happened to me many times. And it's nothing against them, and it's nothing against you, and it's nothing against the situation. It just happens, when we're in a new environment, we want to leech and we want to be friends with everyone, and we want to be able to make as many friends as possible. But then we have to start picking and choosing who is actually worth our time, who is an actual good friend, who actually aligned with what we see in a friendship, and do they make us happy? Do they make us feel good? Do I enjoy being around them? Do I feel like a better person when I'm around them? Do I feel energized when I'm around them? We have to start analyzing all these things. And then slowly over the passing weeks, you'll start pinpointing like, who am I spending more time with? I'm not saying cut anyone off. You don't have to. Like, there's obviously like different people for every single situation in life, like you go out with your going out friends, you go hiking with your hiking friends, but you spend more time with a specific group of people that are actually giving you good back, if that makes sense. So make sure you pick those people after minimum a month, because if you keep going for a really long time, their crash out will come, and then you start comparing your old life to your new life. And let me give you a reality check. It doesn't have to look the same. It does not have to look the same. Your old life, was amazing. You had such a great time, but you're here for a reason. If your old life was so amazing and you really loved it and you were completely satisfied in every single point in your life, you would have still been there. But you're here because you knew that you wanted something different, that you wanted something new. I didn't hate my life in London. I came here, one, for visa reasons, because the UK said bye-bye. But at the same time, I came here because I knew that I'm still so young and I want to experience different cities as well. Just like Barcelona is amazing, doing it for a year, and then I want to go to Australia. Why? Not because I hate Barcelona. I actually really like it here. It's just because I know that I'm young and this is the time for me to learn and see as much as possible. And it's, like if I was still in London, I would still have this feeling of, okay, my life is great. I have amazing friends. I have an amazing life. I love it here. But at the same time, I'm feeling a little bit stuck because it all looks the same. The whole point of moving is for things to be different. So when things look different, we have to understand that it's okay that they're different. That was the whole point. Yes, your old life was great, but this is still in transition. We're still going to make this look great. That didn't look great from zero. your life in your past city didn't look great from the minute you started living there. No, it did not. You probably had a crash out as well. You know, I had a crash out in London. I had a crash out in Madrid. But then things got better. And now I'm so sad because my life in London turned out to be amazing after a year of a crash out. Madrid took me a couple weeks. Amazing after a couple weeks of a crash out. Here, I haven't had a crash out. So I can't really speak for myself yet here. And things have been going so much smoother. But because I've learned and I've become so resilient over how do I overcome all those thoughts of, oh, you miss your old life was better. There is a reason why you're here. There's a reason why there was a change. There's a reason why you're sitting in this room where you are X amount of hours away from the people that you love. And it's for yourself. And it's because you needed it for yourself. And you knew that was what you were meant to do. This is where you were meant to be for X amount of time. Maybe for a couple months. Maybe for a couple years. Maybe for a year. I don't know. But you're here for a reason, so might as well embrace it and embrace the fact that it looks different because you wanted it to be different. To end and wrap up a little bit of this episode, I think I want to add a little bit of my own gist on how to generally meet people in a new city. I'm still trying to figure this out, to be honest. I've been really, really lucky. My first time that I moved out was London. It was for university. I made a lot of friends through uni, and actually my best friend, one of my best friends in London, I didn't meet her because of my uni. I met her because she was the girlfriend of one of the guys in my uni, and we ended up at a party, and I ended up talking to her because she was invited just because she was the girlfriend. And then it's literally putting yourself out there. And then I asked for her phone number, and then I started texting her, and we just got coffee, and then things just started escalating from there. Same thing in Madrid. In Madrid, I actually didn't have any friends there, but I had a friend who had friends there, and she wasn't living there. Let me give you context. So I had a friend who knew people in Madrid, but she wasn't in Madrid. And I was like, can you give me the phone number of like a really close friend that you think I would get along with, that you know in this city? And she gave me the phone number of this guy. And I asked him to get matcha, and we ended up really bonding. And now I'm actually going to see him this weekend back in Madrid. So it really does actually happen through putting yourself out there. You know, now I'm talking about work. Anyways, I texted and called random people. On TikTok, this random girl responded to one of my TikToks, and she was like, oh, I live in Madrid. So I DM'd her, and then we got cocktails, and then we proceeded to get brunch like a week later. And she still like responds to my stories, and I still do to hers as well. Like, it's the silliest little interactions, and it's just putting yourself out there, like asking questions to everyone. Do you know someone here? Can you give me their contact? Ask for a coffee, break the ice, make something chill. If you feel like a coffee is too like, because you need to be talking all the time, because there's not really like, I don't know if anyone feels like this, but I feel like this. I feel like when you meet someone for the first time and you're really nervous, a coffee or a drink might be worse, just because that means that you have to find a conversation throughout the entire time you're with them. But for example, if you tell them like, oh my God, I'm going to this park to see this, you and I come and we meet there. So much better to walk around the park than to be sitting one-on-one, looking them in the face and trying to come up with conversation the entire time while you're really nervous because it's the first time you're meeting this person. Through TikTok, I started responding to people on TikTok. I ask friends if they know anyone in the city sometimes, and I'm like dead serious. I remember once I was in Barcelona and I was at a football game, and I just heard the American accent, and I was like, oh my God, are you also American? I was alone. And she's like, yeah, I'm from California. And we started talking. I feel like when you are in such a different environment that you're used to, you're so much more inclined to make decisions like this that you wouldn't make back at home. When I was living in Miami, I would never go up to a stranger and ask them like, oh, are you American? I would never go up to a stranger and ask them for their phone number. I would never respond to someone on TikTok and be like, oh my God, can we meet up? Like, you're a complete stranger, but let's meet up. I would have never been like, oh my God, can you give me the phone number of a random friend that you know that you think I might like get along with? And then text them, hey, I know you don't know me. I don't know you, but you know this person, and I'm just new here, and I would love to get coffee with you. I would have never done that. But it's because you're in these situations where you're like, I have nothing to lose. Might as well. If anything goes wrong, I had a coffee and I had a stroll, because to get there, I had to walk there or I had to take the bus, and then I took a stroll around the place or around the park near it. And I had a good afternoon stroll, worst case scenario, and I have a good story to tell. At the end of the day, like, it's about putting yourself out there and understanding that if you already made the move, if you already packed up your things and are in a different country, in a different city, talking to someone random is like the easiest thing you can do after every single hard thing that you already did. Because you have to understand that you already did such a hard thing of leaving everyone behind, being far away from your family, having to find housing in a new city, having to start a life all over again from zero. You already did the hard thing. The least hard thing you can do now is talk to people. So might as well put it out there. Anyways, thank you so much for listening to today's episode. I think this will actually go into the podcast on Spotify and Apple Music. If anybody has any other recommendations of things to talk about, I would love to. I think the next episode of this talking series will be on my tips and tricks to travel Southeast Asia. There is a Latin American trip coming up, but it's in April. So yeah, exciting. Hope everyone has an amazing day, and I'll see you guys next week.